Sierra's world was turned upside down the day her husband, Jason, left for the office and never returned. It was supposed to be the best day of her life, as she planned on telling him about her pregnancy. But when Jason failed to return home, it turned into her worst nightmare. Sierra had no idea what to do or where to go to find him. They seemed to be on solid ground as a couple. They had the occasional fight like any normal couple does. Sierra never imagined that Jason would ever leave her, even though their relationship may not be as exciting as it was when they first started dating. But Sierra does not believe that Jason could ever leave her. He used to love her so much. Sierra called police officers as soon as she got the news that her husband was missing. Days went by, months went by, but her husband never came back. 6 months passed, but she didn't hear anything from Jason, neither was there any news about him. After every possible effort, authorities gave up on finding Jason and declared him dead. Sierra was devastated by the news. She refused to believe the authorities and had hoped that one day her husband would come back to her. It was hard for Sierra to get back on her feet after the depression and stress she passed through. 9 months passed in the blink of an eye, and it dawned on Sierra that she truly won't be seeing her husband again. She gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Here she is, all alone with her baby. How am I to cope with this baby alone? She cried to herself every night. Despite all the problems Sierra was facing, she finally got her strength from that little boy. She named him Ethan, as the little guy was her strength. Sierra worked hard to provide Ethan with everything he needed. Growing up, Ethan showed exceptional intelligence. It turned out that Ethan was a child prodigy after all. Ethan has great skill at playing musical instruments. At the age of 5, Ethan starts to learn the violin and harp. Sierra enrolled him in professional lessons by the time he was 6. She never wanted anything to get in the way of Ethan's dreams. At the age of 8, Ethan was already a popular kid and had won so many contests. Ethan started performing in big crowds by the time he was 10. One day, when Sierra opened her mail, she got the shock of her life. Lying in her mail was an invite to New York City, a city she has always dreamt of visiting. Ethan had been invited to New York City to perform. She was beyond ecstatic to see the news. Sierra had been offered a job in New York when Jason proposed to her, but she declined the job offer and settled in California with Jason. After Jason left and Ethan was born, she never for once thought that she'd be able to go to New York ever again in her life. Ethan was also very excited about going to New York City when he heard the news. Finally, the day came. Everything was packed and prepared. Ethan and Sierra finally boarded the plane and got to New York City. Deep down, she wished her husband was there with her and her little prodigy. The performance was scheduled for the day after they arrived. After sending Ethan to rehearsals, Sierra decided to take a walk across the city. While sitting on a park bench, she saw a little girl, around 6, playing with her father. She couldn't see the face of the father, but still the physique looked familiar to her. As she was about to get up and go, she got the biggest shock of her life. The guy turned around. Sierra was shocked to see the guy's face. It's been 10 years since she last saw this face. 10 years, and she still sometimes sees this face in her dreams. Just as he was about to get to his feet, his eyes landed on Sierra, who stood there shivering with shock. Even though she had a hard time accepting that her husband had died, it turned out that he was still very much alive. Tears flow down her eyes as Jason starts to walk towards her. Jason was as shocked to see her here in this city. Sierra started to walk away from him. Jason chased after her and called her name. While Sierra quickens her pace and begins to move away from her, Jason takes a few steps forward and grabs hold of her hand. Sierra starts to sob uncontrollably. "You died," said Sierra in between her sobs. "I had such a hard time believing that you died. I never believed them when they told me that you were dead. But deep down I knew something was wrong because I didn't ever want that there could be any reason you would leave me. I mourned so much for you, Jason." Sierra kept crying, but her yelling stopped. Before Jason could say anything, the little girl ran to Jason and started tugging on his trousers. "Daddy, I want to go eat ice cream," says the little girl. "Give me a minute, sweetheart." Jason took his card out of his pocket and gave it to Sierra. "Please give me one chance to explain myself, and I will leave you alone," Jason said while giving her his card. Jason left with the little girl, and Sierra just stood there looking at the card he gave her. After some time, Sierra collects herself and goes back to her hotel room. She saw Ethan waiting for her. "Mom, where were you today? I had such a wonderful day. Everyone here is so nice and rich. I ate so much. Mom, are you listening?" Ethan was talking, but Sierra was still lost in thoughts. Everything seemed surreal and unbelievable. Could that truly be Jason, or she was daydreaming? The fact that he'd left her and started a family with someone else shocked her to her core. It was Jason who used to say that he didn't really want kids. Sierra begins to reflect on their past together and keeps asking herself what it was about their relationship that caused him to walk away so suddenly. When she realized that her train of thought was making Ethan nervous, she snapped out of her trance and started talking to him right away. By keeping her mind on Ethan, she can avoid thinking about things she'd rather not think about. The day Ethan was to perform finally arrived. Sierra did her best to hide her sorrow from Ethan and supported him on his big day. Ethan was a really smart kid. He understood that his mother was hiding something from him, but as he was a little nervous about his performance, he did not dwell on the matter more. Finally, Ethan was called on stage and played the harp. The crowd went wild after the performance. Everyone starts to clap. From the first row, Sierra's applause could be heard above the rest. Ethan and Sierra were so happy to see everyone's response. Ethan stood up and thanked everyone. Sierra rushed to the stage to congratulate him. She gave him a big hug and told him how proud she was of him. People started trooping out to congratulate Ethan. Sierra was adoring her little boy when her eyes fell on someone in particular in the crowd. Sierra was shocked to see Jason in the crowd. He was sitting with the same little girl and another teenage girl. Jason seemed shocked to see Sierra standing on the stage. Sierra immediately goes to Jason. "Can we talk alone?" asked Sierra. Jason nodded and told the girl to wait for him. "Why are you stalking me? I was not the one who left you," attacked Sierra as soon as they were away from the crowd. Jason was taken aback by her words. Whoa, I had no idea you were here, sighed. Believe me, it was Ashley's idea to come see this. She's into music and everything." Sierra found out that he was talking about his daughter, and her anger turned into sadness right away. Watching the mood shift, Jason realizes he said something wrong. No, sigh. It's not what you were thinking. I never cheated on you." Jason used to call Sierra Sigh whenever he wanted to apologize. "Don't you think it might be a little too late to give me an explanation at this point, Jason? My entire life, I've been under the impression that you'd one day find your way back to me and we'd have a confrontation. I want to know what prompted you to act the way you did. But now that you're here, I can't think of any reason that you could possibly give me to make me forgive you." Sierra wondered. "They threatened to kill you," Jason said abruptly. Sierra looked at him confusedly with her teary eyes. "I borrowed money for our new house. I wanted to surprise you. I asked for money from some guys. They were bad people. I was trying so hard to pay them back. But that day, I had an argument with my boss for money, and he fired me. I did not know what to do. I was so devastated. I was coming back to tell you everything, but then they found out that I got fired from my job. They kept asking me about my family and where I lived. They beat me to death. They told me they were going to kill you. I was so scared to come back home. I got treated at the hospital under a wrong name. When I was able to walk, I left the city. I don't remember how many trains, buses, and hitchhikes I took. When I arrived here in New York, I remembered your dream of living in this city. I found a job as a housekeeper and stayed here. The guilt of leaving you was eating me alive. I was so worried that those people might have found out about you. But I couldn't risk your life coming back to you. I became an alcoholic and kept drinking. When my boss fired me, I came back to my senses. That's when I realized I couldn't live my life this way. I went into rehab and got sober." Silent tears kept flowing through her eyes. "So then you got sober and married another woman and lived happily ever after. It's good to hear your story, Jason. It's so good to hear that you left me to save me when I grinded for years to provide basic necessities to our kid. It's so good to hear all of this," Sierra stated glumly. "He's our kid." Sighed. "I never knew you were pregnant or else I wouldn't have." Before Jason could say anything else, someone came to Sierra, telling her that Ethan was calling her. Sierra left Jason and went back inside to Ethan. Ethan could tell that his mother was upset, so he asked her to take him out to lunch. "Why are you not happy, Mom? You did not like my performance?" Ethan asked while they were having lunch. "No, my baby boy. You were the best like always. I am so proud of you," Ethan said. Sierra. "Then why are you so upset? And please don't lie to me. As much as you want me to, but I am not a kid anymore. I am a prodigy, you know," joked Ethan. Sierra laughed at his sentence. "Okay, my mature prodigy," Sierra sighed and told him all about her interaction with Jason. "But I thought my father was dead," wondered Ethan. "I used to think so too," said Sierra. "So, if he told you everything, then why aren't we having this lunch with him?" asked Ethan. "Because he's married to someone," Sierra replied. "He told you that?" "No, But I saw him with his daughter. But he didn't say that he's married, right? Wondered Ethan. Ethan, you might be a child prodigy, but you still can't understand some things. Sierra told him, ruffling his hair. All right, Mom, all I want is for you to forgive him and move on and be happy. I don't like sad Mom. Sierra smiled, listening to her son. It was the day Sierra and Ethan were supposed to leave New York City. Listening to her 10-year-old advice, Sierra decided to meet Jason one more time and forgive him and move on with her life. They met in the same park where they met that day. Jason was so happy when Sierra told him that she forgave him. Jason moved forward to hug her, but she backed off. I might forgive you, but don't forget you are a married man, said Sierra. Jason sighed and said, yes, you were right, I am a married man. Listening to his words, Sierra started to walk away, but Jason held her back, pulled her towards himself and said, I am married to you, Cy. Did you forget? Sierra looked at Jason confusedly. I met Ashley's mother in rehab 5 years ago. She was a victim of addiction too, but her condition was worse than mine. She often told me that her daughter starved because of her, and she used to feel guilty for her kid's condition. One day, she committed suicide, leaving a note asking me to take care of her daughters. I knew the pain of being alone, so I did everything I could to be a good father to her. And I will do everything I can to be a great father to my child as well. Please let me be his father and your husband. I never stop loving you, Cy. You know I can't go back to California, you can come here. It is your favorite city after all. There are so many opportunities for Ethan here. Jason looked into her eyes with hope. Sierra nods her head with teary eyes. Jason hugs her tightly and they both kiss each other.